Morning, everybody. 4:41 right now. We're following some breaking news of a water rescue right now underway in Madison.
Channel 4's Thomas Davis and Mobile 4 is live at the scene right now. Water rescue, Thomas, what are we seeing out there? What's happening?
Well, Chris, you can see them putting this boat in the water right now. We have reports that somebody drove a vehicle. We're at the end of Neely's Bend Road here in Madison. Here comes the medic now. I'm not sure if they've got anybody inside of it or not. Got a lot of people yelling and screaming to get the boat in the water now. Get the boat in the water now. They have a woman that has possibly driven in her car into the water, and it sounds as if an officer may have jumped into the water trying to save her. So right now I hear a lot of panicked voices coming from the woodline here on my right, telling me get the boat in the water. You can see them doing that right now. They're putting the boat in the water right now. So we do have people in the water they are trying to rescue right now. One may be an officer that has jumped into the water and is trying to save a woman that drove into the water.
We know that several officers jumped into the Cumberland River here in Peeler Park trying to find this woman who they say drove her car into the river about an hour or so ago. A family member said she was having suicidal thoughts and said she planned to do this. So again, several officers jumped into the water. I can confirm that 2 have been taken by ambulance. We watched as those ambulances drove right by us here within the last 20 or so minutes. They've been taken to the hospital and are being treated for hypothermia. But at this point, it is not yet confirmed if there are still officers in the water. So again, several jumped in. There still may be some unaccounted for.
Obviously, this begs the question about the dangers of the water. It's cold, it's wintertime, and for that, we've got to turn to Paul.
Hypothermia, right?
Yeah, it's not just the danger of drowning and being carried away by the current, but that water temperature is pretty cold. It's early February. Air temperatures are cold. The water temperature has been cooled down. Even with an above average January, it's still wintertime. Take a look at the current water temperature. This is via the U.S. Geological Survey. They're the agency that keeps track of this. 49 degrees is the current water temperature of the Cumberland River. Expected time that you would get exhausted or possibly even drop into unconsciousness with water temperatures in the upper 40s, anywhere from a half an hour to a full hour. Expected survival time is in the range of 1 to 3 hours. That's just because of the water temperature. That doesn't take into account the current or the drowning potential with the depth of the Cumberland River as well.
I do have some new information I want to pass along to you, and that is I just talked with police officers within the last few minutes, and they're telling me that they've called for a helicopter to help search for the potential missing police officers and woman who drove her vehicle into the Cumberland River here in Peeler Park, and they're expanding their search, not necessarily the area that they're searching, but they're just bringing in more resources here to help. We've been watching all morning as fire trucks have been driving in, police officers have been coming in to help. Within the last few minutes, we spotted a boat that was being brought in here.
Kim, we're waiting for official word from authorities right now, but now we have confirmed indeed that at least one officer is missing, as well as the woman who initially drove herself into the Cumberland River there in Madison.
Right, yeah. So we know that several officers went in after this woman, again, who drove her vehicle into the Cumberland River. This is in Peeler Park in Madison. It's kind of where Neely's Bend Road dead ends. So yeah, several officers jumped in. We know at least one is unaccounted for, so that is the reason for this massive search effort that you're watching live right now. They have several fire rescue crews here, as well as Metro police officers. I've been estimating all morning some 24 or so, and we've been watching by the minute. It seems like they're bringing in more resources, more boats. We understand there were 2 initially. We saw another one drive in. They have a helicopter up there searching the area too. You may be able to hear it in the background. We did watch as 2 police officers were taken away in ambulances to nearby hospitals. They're being treated for hypothermia. Of course, we're talking about temps here in the 30s. So they were in that river. We're not quite sure how long this whole thing lasted. We just know that they are again being treated for hypothermia and that they're expanding the search.
All right, we're going to go right now, the very latest on this water rescue.
A car at the water's edge on the boat ramp. There were 2 officers who were trying to get her to come out of the car, to not go into the water. They talked with her for about 10 minutes or so. At 4:35 this morning, the Emergency Communication Center shows a record of officers being in the water. A sergeant who arrived just at the end of the scenario on the boat ramp reported that it appeared the woman, the 40-year-old woman, was about to get out of the car and come with the officers. Suddenly, the car went into gear and rolled down into the water off the ramp. The 2 officers, as the car was rolling, tried to make heroic efforts to save the woman who was in the vehicle. the boat ramp abruptly ended underwater. If you can imagine, the concrete ends underwater. They couldn't see where the boat ramp ended. Both of the officers slipped. One officer tried to grab the other. He was unsuccessful. About an hour or so after the officer went into the water, fire department boats actually found the woman who was in the car. She was able to get out of her submerged vehicle and made it to a riverbank about 50 or 60 yards from the boat ramp. So she has been taken to a hospital. We need the thoughts and prayers of the city for this police officer.
We're back with an update on that story we've been covering all morning long. Metro Police now confirming they have found the body of an officer who went missing on the Cumberland River early this morning.
Now, he went missing on the water while trying to save a woman who was reportedly making suicidal thoughts. Now, this is the very latest, the information we are seeing from Metro Police. This is Officer Eric Muma. He is 44. He is an 18-year veteran of the Metro Police Department, and he is the officer who gave his life this morning in service to Nashville.
And we have a live report right now. Here's an update from authorities.
He was working during the night as a Madison Precinct C-shift officer. We'll have more details about Officer Mumau later in the day. He was an award-winning officer. I recall announcing his name several times at award ceremonies, and we'll have more information about him later today. The woman who they were here to try to save this morning, Julie Glisson, is at Skyline Medical Center. She has been detained by the police department.
We just heard that they just took his body here not too long ago. In fact, within the last 15 or so minutes, we watched an ambulance with its lights on drive by. It was being escorted by several police officers, both in the front and the back of it. This is a very emotional scene here. We've seen some officers hugging, of course, as they just learned the news that officer's body, the 18-year veteran, his body's been found. It was about a 4-hour search this morning.
Incredibly difficult situation. We've been watching this since shortly after 4 o'clock this morning and covering this live. And, you know, sad to report that, yes, inside that ambulance right now, the body of a 44-year-old police officer who passed away, and the woman he was trying to rescue, again, possibly impaired, maybe an attempt to commit suicide early this morning, and has cost the life of an officer. Metro Police have wrapped up their search for a missing officer in the Cumberland River. We are sad to report that 44-year-old Eric Mumau passed away this morning. He was trying to rescue a woman who was attempting suicide by driving her car into the Cumberland River near Madison. This story has been developing in a Metro City Park there since just after 4 o'clock this morning. Our crews have been there all morning long. Crews searched for nearly 5 hours. The 40-year-old woman who was in the car has been rescued. Authorities say she appeared to be impaired. She's being detained by police at the moment. Hearts and prayers go out to Metro Police this morning.
Live with breaking news. This is Channel 4 News at Noon.
Officer Mumau died truly trying to save the life of someone else.
A Metro Police officer gave his life this morning trying to save a woman threatening to drive her car into the Cumberland River. In the rescue attempt, Officer Eric Mumau went missing in the Cumberland, his body found hours later. An 18-year veteran on the police force, Officer Mumau is being hailed a true hero. He leaves behind a fiancée and her daughter. Well, now a criminal investigation is underway with the woman, 40-year-old Julie Glisson, being questioned and detained now by police. We have team coverage on this story, starting with what happened to lead up to this. Who is Julie Glisson? And a look back at the life of Officer Mumau, talking with those who knew him and his dedication to serve the people of Nashville. And we begin with Channel 4's Kim St. Ange. She is live on the scene where this all started. Good afternoon, Kim.
Right, Hallie. So Julie Glisson's car was parked on the edge of the boat ramp here in Peeler Park. This is just beyond the line of trees there where you see those officers. And at that time, she was threatening to drive into the river. Well, just when it looked like she was about to back down, Officer Eric Mumau and Officer Nick Diamond noticed that her car started rolling into the river. They slipped and fell into that freezing water trying to save her. Glisson and Diamond made it back to the bank. Then the officer noticed his co-worker was still struggling in the water.
He was in despair in the river, and Officer Diamond was trying to grab him and actually had slight contact with him at one point, but could not maintain the grip.
Metro Police tell Channel 4 a third officer jumped into the river trying to save Mumau, but couldn't make it to him. Mumau was last seen some 50 yards from the boat ramp. Dozens of firefighters and police officers desperately searched for the 18-year veteran. Boats circled the area where he went under. A helicopter searched from the sky. The search came to a heartbreaking end 4 hours after it started.
Just after 8 o'clock this morning, the body of Officer Eric Mumau was recovered by a Metro Fire Department diver from the Cumberland River.
Although his life was lost, it's important that his body was recovered and he's now at peace.
Officer Diamond has just been released from Vanderbilt Hospital and is in stable condition. The third officer, Trent Craig, was treated at the scene. And Glisson is at Skyline Medical Center right now in a stable condition. Initial reports from the hospital indicate she may have been impaired at the time, and police are telling us she may be facing criminal charges. Holly?
All right, Channel 4's Kim St. Onge live there at the scene. Thank you, Kim. Now, the other officer who was with Mumau during the water rescue has been released from the hospital. As mentioned, Nick Diamond was one of the other officers who also went into that water. Now, he was able to make it out. He was taken to Vanderbilt Medical Center. He is now recovering at home. The Nashville Fire Department was also called out during the rescue attempt. Spokesperson Brian Haas told media that everyone in their line of work knows the risks going into their jobs, but they still do it anyway.
None of us get into this job for any other reason other than to help people. And these officers who went in the water today, they did it to help people.
Now, the water rescue started with a woman making suicidal threats. Now, she was eventually found alive on the banks of the Cumberland River shortly after her car submerged. Sadly, as we mentioned, one officer trying to help her was not. Metro Police are now questioning Julie Glisson. Now, Channel 4's Kevin Traeger is live for us. He's in our newsroom with some brand new information he's dug up on her criminal past. And Kevin, this is quite lengthy.
You're right, Holly. Her first DUI arrest came back in 2003, according to court records, and she ended up pleading guilty to reckless driving. She was arrested again for drinking and driving in 2015. Just last year, she pleaded guilty to DUI. Now, between 2008 and 2010, court records show she was arrested multiple times during traffic stops. She's also pleaded guilty to vandalism in 2008 and assault in 2010. As of right now, Glisson is not facing charges after this morning's water rescue, but police tell us they're questioning her at the hospital.
She has been taken to Skyline Medical Center. The initial report from officers at Skyline is that she shows signs of impairment. She is being detained and is very much under criminal investigation now by this police department.
Now, coming up at 4 o'clock, I'll have more on Glisson's alleged drunk driving crash from 2010 when she fled the scene after a passenger in the other car was injured. Holly?
All right, Kevin Traeger, thank you. Well, Eric Mumau was an 18-year veteran of the Metro Police Department, loved by all of his colleagues and friends. Channel 4's Carly Gordon has been talking to many of them this morning, and she's joining us live now from the Madison precinct with more about the man who so many are calling a hero. Good afternoon, Carly.
Good afternoon, Holly. What you said is so true. In fact, I want to show you a citizen just dropped this off to the Madison Police Precinct. It's a wreath with a blue ribbon across it symbolizing a fallen officer, and on it you can see it says beloved hero, because that is exactly who Eric Mumau was to this community. You know, working in news, we know the overnight shift is extremely difficult. It takes a very special person to actually enjoy it. But friends tell us that was who Eric Mumau was, and he spent most of his career working that shift. Those who knew and loved him say he loved his job. He did it well. In fact, he was the recipient of several Metro Police Department awards, including the Life Saving Award in 2011. We're told he always put others before himself. Just this past Sunday, he posted a montage on his Facebook page featuring pictures of his little girl. On it, he wrote, "Forever my love bug." We're told that little girl was the light of his life. In fact, he had just taken her and their family to Disney World for the first time not too long ago. People all across the city, and especially his brothers and sisters in blue, are simply devastated. Today, they're now relying on one another to make it through this very difficult time.
We have a huge hole in our hearts today.
It's one big family, and it's times like this that everybody realizes that.